Hey everybody, Dave here. This is a single video in my 15-part series for Let's Build in Blue Prism using Notepad++. I'm assuming that if this isn't part one, then you have seen the video prior to this. Let's get started. The next thing is we need to spy this area because we have proved that we can successfully get into here. Let's create ourselves a subsection underneath, or we could just create a whole nother section. Child identify. Okay, so you can see Win32 mode again is not all that helpful for us. We can identify some of these buttons, so that's good. So maybe we'll use it for that. But let's change over to active accessibility mode as well. All right. So it looks like we can do row by row. If you'll see, I could try to do what looks like the whole table and read the whole table at once, but it's probably not going to work. What I'd expect to see is if it did read all the data here, it would be in one of these attributes. So I scroll down, you can see that none of these contain a bunch of data. Let's identify and use AA mode, and we'll just do the first row here, and then let's look at this to see if we can create one element and as dynamic, or one element and then change one or two of the attributes to be dynamic and use that to select the row that we want. Okay, let's do this. Deselect all of those empty ones, and then in here you can see we've got the name is requirements.text, and then just the description we have this, which is good. In our case, we don't care about path or type, because now that I think about it, our requirement was to look for the name of the files. So we're going to use this name attribute to find which row we want. So let's test that. If I were to type the name of one of the other files, let's actually make sure we can find this first. Okay, so it finds the first row. And if I were to change this to say bp cli commands.txt, highlight, oh, look at that. Cool, cool. Let's do it differently, actually. Because now that I think about it, I was thinking we'd look for the specific names, but we're not going to do that because the person won't know what the names of all of the windows are. They just want us to close anything that doesn't equal these two. So they might pass those in, but they won't know about the rest of them. So we can't use name to identify. And now if you notice that we deselected name, I click highlight, it finds all four of those elements, and we're going to need to use a match index to find each one. I've got to remember my alphabet. Match index, highlight. Okay, let's hit the match column twice. Use match index 2. Cool, cool, cool. We got the second row. 3, highlight. 4, highlight. And then what will end up happening is we're going to try 5 whenever we loop into this thing, and it'll give us an error saying it can't find it, but that's good. That means there is no fifth one, which means there's only 4, and we only have 2 things to close. Actually change match index to dynamic. Row dynamic. Okay, and so we've navigated to the Windows list. We need to get Windows list. So let's do a read dynamic get window name. We got to pass in a parameter. Match index, we're going to have to use a number data item and increment that along the way. Match index number. Let's start off with 1. That makes sense, right? Start off with 1. And then we will have to do a sort of a loop. We're going to have to increment it. Where's my calculation? Increment match index. Then let's do match index plus 1, match index. So we're going to put the value back into, click OK, and what we're going for is when we run this page to get the window list, we're going to get a window name. We will need to, if we don't get an error, then we will need to add to a collection of windows. So windows list, or maybe it's just window list. Add a field, window name, text, and OK. We'll need to add a row to this collection. Let's see, new row. Drop down here to collections, do add row on this collection. It's looking for the name, so window list. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do next is start get window name, because we will be able to choose, we're going to use match index 1 to begin with the first time every time. Let's not put it directly into here. Let's use a temporary data item to hold the name. Current window name, text, and then this will go into there. Text, current window name, we need to get window attribute. I'll put name in here as the window attribute, or the attribute name in this element. And we know that we want to get the name of the element. Out of it, it's going to be the name of the file effectively. We will store that into current window name temporarily. And then after that, we'll verify, maybe each time we'll verify that we got a window name, but data validation is not that important for us right now. So we'll just assume we got it. If we didn't get an error, then we will add a new row to the window list, and we'll transfer what's in here to go into here. Get window name, set window name to collection. And then we'll put this into the collection called window list dot window name. Then we'll increment the match index so that we can go back up around and get the next one until we run into a problem. So at some point we're going to expect to get an error. So let's recover that error and resume. And we're not going to do anything in between this because it's not a real error. We know that when we can't find something, we're going to assume here there's no tab open. Let's go anchor and then just connect it into the end. So we're going to loop up until there are no more. All right, so what we have is an endless loop until we run into a problem. We can expect that this will throw an error whenever it can't find something. So catch non-existing row. Recover it, resume it, and then end. Now there's 3 errors up here. Let's go ahead and check those. Expression for match index in row 1 is blank. Whoops. Match index is our dynamic input. Silly me. Reset. Now we've only got 1 error. Invalid expression missing, data item window name. Oh, just because I typed it current window name. Current window name. Let's run it. Uh-oh. We got an error. Let's see what it was. Let's reset. Step. It says failed to perform step 1. It's probably going to say Oh, identifier name of type window not found. I'm going to save you the trouble of watching me stare at the screen for 10 or 15 minutes trying to figure out what the problem is. I'm not sure what was going on in my mind, but I quickly selected the wrong thing when I used the read stage. Let's go back into the get window name read stage. And what I should have probably done from the start, and I'm not sure why I didn't see this, is chosen the action get AA attribute, which is get active accessibility attribute. Perhaps get name might even work. I imagine that probably would work. It's probably the same thing. But we're going to do get AA attribute and see if that works now. I've already tested it. So I'm going to click OK. You notice that nothing changed. It's still using the same value to store in. It's still a text data type, still using the same element. And the attribute name is still name. But this time it'll work because now we're telling it, hey, we're looking for an active accessibility attribute. So Blue Prism understands I'm using that mode to go find the elements attribute. Let's reset and play. Okay, so now you see it gets the current window name, which is, well, okay, it's not the one that's selected here, but it's the top one, or should be the top one. Okay, so we've obviously got another problem. We might have an infinite loop. Let's look in this collection, see what we got. Okay, so while I was working with this in Application Modeler, I believe I deselected one of the attribute. Oh, right, I selected a whole bunch. Okay. Let's change this back. And I have to re-identify this element in AA mode. It's probably the quickest way to do it. Deselect all of the blank ones. And then also that default action one, just in case. Deselect description because that's going to change. Deselect name because that's going to change. Reorder this and let's go select match index. Match index. Change it to dynamic. Let's just verify it still works. Okay. Change this match index to dynamic so we can choose any of these. And then we've got row, dynamic, active accessibility, good to go. Now it should actually use this match index and build our collection like it's supposed to. Speed it up a little bit. All right, it's looped around the first time and it's still getting the wrong. No, they got the right value. Look at that. Yeah, we shouldn't be surprised when stuff works like it's supposed to. Okay, so the last one you see when it got to match index 5, which there is no fifth row there, it threw an error, recovered, resumed, and then went to end. So in this case, this is a time where we don't really need to report the error, even though we did technically generate an error in Blue Prism. We can just resume it immediately. So let's look in our Windows list collection. This is just something we find when we're working with an application, is that when it returns the names of the text files, it will return it with a star in the case I believe that it's considered not saved. Yeah, so I'm going to close this. Wait, does it actually show it here? Yeah, it shows it right there. So if it were saved, we wouldn't be having that problem. I'm going to just close the window. I'm not going to close the window. That's not what I meant to do. Let's go open it back up. Text file with empty rows. And do we still have requirements open? Okay, so we got a few open now. So I guess that's good. We can test it again. And let's just run it at full speed in Object Studio. We have to have this open. Windows. There we go. Look how fast it got it. Got all the values. One more thing we need to do actually on this page is that we've gotten the window list, but we need to get it back to the calling process. And we use the end stage to do that. Let's say window list as our output file names that are open in Notepad++. The data type is collection, and we're going to get the value from window list. Click OK. All right, so this should be good to go. We can probably expose this as an action to be called on or publish it. The only problem I might have here now is that we don't check to see that we're on the right screen before doing that. Do we want to add this now or come back? I think we should come back after we've spied some of the other things. All right, thanks for watching this part of this 15-part series in Let's Build in Blue Prism, where we work with Notepad++. I'll see you next time.